Good afternoon, Lions fans. My name is Tyler Lothar, and I'm bringing you episode 2 of the LPP, the Lions Pride podcast. And with me today, I've got two amazing guests. I've got EC women's basketball coach and EC legend himself, Mike Bonner. And with him, I've got the reigning, defending NCAA champions for the second consecutive year in the 2016 Emmanuel College Coach of the Year, Jake Brumbelow. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, doing good.
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
We're doing okay on this side.
Good.
Question for both of you guys, since you guys are both coming off of fantastic seasons. What do you think led to your success for both of you guys? Obviously, I'm talking about you guys getting to the national championship game and you guys winning a second consecutive national championship.
Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, this year for our success, it's really been through our preparation. It's been great. The guys have done well with study hall and in the classroom, and everybody being eligible in our lineup kind of starts the biggest part of the puzzle, and then also being healthy. Being the brutal sport of wrestling, everybody being healthy and being able to be in the lineup. And those two things, once you have everybody healthy and eligible, then a lot of the technique and process of going out and executing is a lot easier.
Coach Bonner?
That's a tough question because through the course of basketball season, I think it's similar to wrestling. We start when the kids get here in school with preseason, and then we have a pretty intensive preseason workout and meetings with our team to kind of find out what direction we're going to go. And then we get into basketball practice, the season, and then it carries all the way into March like it did this year. So it's a long, intensive season, and there are a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of highs and lows. I think probably the main crux of our success this year has come from the leaders on our team. We had a special group of kids that took up leadership roles and really supported everything us coaches were trying to put across. And one of the main roles that we had, and one of the main things we wanted to do was to be playing our best at the end of the year. As most people know, basketball, especially in March now, with March Madness, is a tournament game. So our whole goal at the beginning of the year was to finish the season strong. It's one of our core values in everything that we do, both with our workouts, both in practice and in the games. We wanted to finish strong. So I think the leadership we had continued to emphasize that, even though we had some weak points in our season. And I would just give it to the leadership on our team, following that one core value of finishing strong, and I think it carried us all the way to the end of the year.
Absolutely. It absolutely did. Seeing as how far you guys came this season, and as how far you guys came this season, you're wrestlers. Was there anyone in particular? You were mentioning leaders. Was there anybody in particular who you felt took that extra step, or gave that extra oomph for your team as far as leadership?
Yeah, definitely our captains. They led in different ways. We have Jeremiah Lutz, who's more of a quiet leader and really can dominate you on the mat with technique. And then we had Cody Cheney. He's a little bit more vocal of a leader, and he's going to tell you how you should do things. And those guys learning what their leadership styles were, and then being able to apply how they are naturally as a person, and to help everybody else on the team. And then taking some younger guys in and helping them with school, helping them with stuff socially, just letting them know that, hey, I was a freshman and a sophomore before, and it's going to get better. It's hard, and helping those guys grow and take that learning curve and making it faster for them. So definitely those two captains stepped up and had a stellar seasons, and they've just been amazing. And a lot of it's been them figuring out who they are as leaders first, and then being able to help others. So yeah, those two seniors and captains are going to be difficult to replace.
Absolutely. I was getting ready to say I've had classes with both Jeremiah and Cody, and they do both seem like Jeremiah seems more laid back and quiet, while Cody's a little more outspoken and animated. Coach Bonner? leaders on your team?
Well, seniors, of course. Those being Tamia Reynolds, Elise Coberly, and Keely Chester, who had to sit out this year because of a season-ending injury. She actually helped us as a graduate assistant, but probably Tamia. She's just a leader by nature. That's just what she's about. She's been doing that for us for 2 years, but this year, more than anything, she from the very beginning of the season to the end of the season, she was having players in her room. She was taking them to movie nights. Um, she would have devotionals with our team without us even being there throughout the course of the season. Her leadership was just amazing, and the respect that she got from her leadership. She doesn't, if you know Tamia, you know she doesn't meet a person that she's not going to speak to. And her character and her leadership just spread throughout our whole team. I've never had a kid that had such an influence on our team as she has had this year. As you guys know, she won the NCCA Kathy Freeze Award for her character and not only her playing ability, but her character on and off the court. And she's like a 3.85 student. She's a math major, but she has a lot of common sense as well. So I think if I had to lean on anybody in regards to our team, it would be Tamia. And I would think that if we had a vote, all our team was in here, they'd all vote the same thing. I mean, she just really carried us and made a big difference in our team throughout this year.
Absolutely. She does seem like an amazing girl. I don't know her personally, but from an outsider's perspective, she seems great.
She really is.
Coach Bonner, if you could talk to us about that semifinals matchup against Mid-American up in Indiana. If you could tell us a little bit about that match, that game.
Well, going into the game, we felt pretty good. We knew they were a good team, and they had a couple of kids that played on the wing that we knew could really score. And we kind of had a game plan as to how we were going to play them, and pretty much executed that game plan for 3 quarters. And then when we got in the fourth quarter, one of their key players, believe it or not, their point guard, who was a really good player, got in foul trouble and she went out. And then their leading scorer, who the one we were so concerned about, they moved her to point guard, which meant, oh, now she's got the ball in her hands. Mm-hmm. Well, when they did that, they probably didn't know, but that kind of gave them an advantage. So they really made a run at us in that last quarter. And of course, we missed probably some opportunities and some shots there at the end. That we probably should have finished. But that was a really, really intense game. Felt like going into the game we had an excellent chance of being successful. And we were actually happy we were able to hang on at the end of the game. But, once again, we're in March Madness, and I've been watching games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, somebody said the other day there was one ACC team, men's team, left in the tournament, and that was North Carolina. And they were behind the other night. In the second half, and we're able to salvage a win. So, I mean, how do you know what's going to happen, how it's going to fall? All you want to do is survive and move on. So that was a really intense game, and I've had a lot of people tell me that kind of got their heart rate up. And it did mine as well, but we were really happy to get through that and get to the finals.
For those who don't know, for those who didn't see, Emmanuel College won against the Mid-Americans 75-74. On a late free throw made by Tamia Reynolds. Coach Brumbelow, if you could tell us about your nationals and who did well there individually and how that went.
Yeah, well, the national tournament, it's interesting because it's an individual sport, with the national tournament at the end of the year. It's not like duels, where we traditionally duel one team at a time, where we're trying to peak at the end of the year, so everybody's got to be firing on all cylinders individually for their own individual tournament. So we're coaching the guys individually to wrestle their matches and do their thing. So a lot of it is you go out and wrestle your 7 minutes this round, survive in advance, like Coach was saying, and then detach yourself from the tournament. So it was a lot of you go in and wrestle your match this round and then remove yourself. Don't watch your teammates. Don't cheer anyone on because we need you saving that energy, not thinking too much, not stressing, not worrying over a long 3-day tournament. So it was a lot of that. Guys, go in and do your business and then go rest and get off your feet, rehydrate, make them wait for the next day. And making them process-oriented, just focusing on that process. So that's all that they can really control is 7 minutes at a time, and then that's it. You can't worry about who might come through the other side of the bracket. Just reminding them of their tournament tips, doing that kind of stuff. Um, Individually, we had 3 national champs with Cody Chaney, Jeremiah Lutz, and then junior Maverick Recksteiner at 197, who will be returning next year. Those guys just felt comfortable. They were ready to perform and made it happen. And everybody contributed. We had wins from everyone. So even though it's an individual tournament, we were team champs. Everybody contributed from freshmen all the way up, as we had 9 guys place, so 9 All-Americans out of 11. So everybody contributed to that team score, which is the most important part of it, to have all the individual guys working well together to achieve that team goal.
Absolutely. Team, despite being an individual sport, it's also a team effort to get to be 2-time national champions. You mentioned guys like Cody Chaney and Jeremiah Lutz who aren't going to be returning. Question for both of you guys: how are you going to replace your senior leaders next season?
I don't think you really replace them. That when you, and Coach will say this too, when we've poured so much time into a relationship that you've built for 4, maybe even 5 years with recruiting, and you don't replace that. I mean, what your hope is the ones that maybe have been training under them are getting better. They've got experience. They've learned from them, and then when they get ready to step in that role, hopefully they're ready to carry that banner for them. But trying to replace quality seniors is very difficult to do. I heard you hear this all the time about teams, they don't recruit, they reload. Well, as coaches, you'd like to think that, but to replace kids that have been an embodiment of your program for 3 and 4 years is very difficult to do. So I'm not going to think we can replace them. We're just hoping that the crew that has been influenced by those seniors will be able to step in that role, and with some recruiting, we'll be able to fill some of that gap that they're going to leave with some other players.
Absolutely. Coach Brumbelow?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Coach Bonner. There's some people you can't replace. Everyone's different. You just hope that some of the underclassmen are ready to step up, and we'll see as we get to the end of the year. Here we ask the team who they really see on their team as leaders. So a lot of that you'll be surprised when you really hear what their voice is and what they think and see as among his teammates who they want leading them. So we definitely take that in consideration and let them have a vote and a voice in that decision-making process. And yeah, I wish we can just reload and just keep moving forward and continue to get better each year, because there's always another level we can jump. But, definitely hard to replace those guys.
I'm going to say this too, and I think Coach would agree with this. And I always tell our players this, as individual players, but as a team. And Coach, he's just won 2 national championships. It'd be difficult for him to say this, but I think he would believe this too. I mean, I don't feel like anybody stays the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no really in between there. So, I want to think that our success this year and the experience that our team got from our success is going to prepare them for next year. And maybe we'll be more prepared if we happen to get into that moment again. It's not easy to replace, but as coaches, that's kind of our job. I mean, we got to do the best job we can to try to bring a crew back and recruit a crew that hopefully will put us back in that same situation.
Absolutely. Here with women's wrestling coach Jake Brumbelow and women's basketball coach Mike Bonner. As far as the style that you guys coach, 2 drastically different sports, basketball and wrestling, may or may not be sort of similar in ways. But is there a style that you teach your team, or that you coach your team, rather, that you think either leads to success or leads to a better flow of play?
Coach?
Well, for me, I got individual wrestlers, so I got to know each of them individually, and they're all going to wrestle different. They're all going to be the same. And if they all wrestle the same, it'd be easy to coach against somebody who had their team all wrestling the same way. So we really coach, we start mentally. We learn that if the guys, we can control their thoughts, then they can control their actions and then their words. So we really get in their heads first and coach them from that way, kind of inside out, working on the mental side. And then it works into for them being mentally tough. And then we get in their heads where they are mentally tough, that they really don't make any excuses. And I've learned that when people learn to not make excuses for anything, then they are way more successful in everything and anything they do. And they're able to get through harder times. It's like a bad call or something. You don't show any emotion, and then they just pick it up and get it the next time. So we kind of go mentally that way, and practicing it, and it takes time, and it goes a lot of hard workouts, a lot of difficult situations, and then with some experience. So it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes you're trying to change culture or some bad habits, and it really takes preaching it, practicing it over and over. And what we've noticed over the years that once they become mentally tough and they can handle any situation, and they don't make excuses about anything, whether it's a paper, whether it's a professor, or it's anything that happens in their life, then they really, really do find more individual success, no matter if they like to shoot takedowns or not, or whatever they like to run as far as moves on top. All that stuff's going to take care of itself. We notice once we get control, really, of the mental side for them.
Absolutely. They say sports is 95% mental, 5% physical. Coach Bonner?
Well, every year we have a meeting. We'll have a meeting next week with our returning players, and we begin to list what we call our core values, and we try to base our style on our agreement on what our core values are going to be for that particular year. Coach says that he allows his team to kind of buy into whatever direction they want to go, and I think it's important. I mean, I could put up what I think is exactly the way it should be, but I think, like any organization, you want buy-in, and to have buy-in, I think they need to have a major part and a major role into what our style might be and what our core values will be. So we'll have that meeting again next week. So that kind of varies. It varies with with the different kind of team we might have from year to year. I think personally, as a coach, the things that I think we've done really well is that no matter any time or no matter what opponent we step out on the floor, they know they're going to get our best effort. I think that is a core value of our team that's always going to be there from the beginning to the end of the year. I think you got to have that no matter what, any level of success, you got to have that. And I think I have something in my office that I have sitting on my desk, and it's really simple, but I talk about it all the time, about never, ever giving up in practice, in a game, while we're in the season. So, it's basic stuff, but we try to emphasize it over and over again. I'm really big on making sure that no matter where we're at or what we're doing, that our players are giving energy to our team. Because I feel like if you're not giving energy, you're taking energy away. So we talk a lot about energy all the time.
Keeping the tempo up.
Keeping tempo up, keeping energy up, giving encouragement. We have a thing that we tell our players, in any minute of practice, you should have already given your teammate 4 encouraging words. So there's constant talk in practice. We talk all the time about a quiet gym is a losing gym, so we always want it to be upbeat and going. So our style tends to change. Basketball-wise, we like to be very disciplined in what we're doing, both on the offensive and defensive end of the floor. We don't want to make a lot of mistakes, and we want to really guard people. So that's going to vary, I think, with our personnel. But our core values that they decide on, we follow those from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. One of them this year was no whining. So anytime I had somebody complaining about, well, the referees they're terrible tonight, or the guy keeping the 30-second shot clock keeps messing up, I mean, I can always go back to, okay, what's one of our core values? No whining. In fact, you guys know Nancy Gainey. She came by my office one day and she says, "Coach, is there something I can tell your players?" I said, "Yeah, when you see them, you tell them no whining." For the whole year, every time she'd see one of my players, she'd say, "No whining, girls, no whining." So, I mean, it varies, but I mean, there are some, and Coach will say this too. In championship programs, there's a thread, I think, that goes through those programs, even though coaches might be doing it a different way. So I don't think there's any secrets to that, but I think the main crux of the whole thing is to get your players to buy into that. And I think once you get them to buy in, then you're on the right road.
Absolutely. Building off of what both of you just said, specifically Coach Brumbelow, I like to ask coaches what they look for in a recruit, but also what they look not to see in a recruit. Is there anything that is there any one personality trait, athletic attribute, or lack thereof that if you saw that in a recruit that you would just completely be turned off by it? Coach Brumbelow?
Yeah, recruiting's an interesting process, and it's so important. And getting to know someone so quickly and seeing if they're going to be a part of what you're doing and your program and how they're going to fit in as far as academically, socially, athletically, and all the other parts and spiritually. Oh, it's a stressful process, and this is a stressful part of the year, recruiting right now, as we're getting our signing period. Yeah, there's one thing that if we just found out, his GPA is 1.8, yeah, there's just not a lot we're going to be able to do right here, and it's just not going to work. So yeah, that would turn us off right away as far as recruiting goes with that part. What we're looking for is upside. Where's the upside in each kid? Where are they at in their career, in their development? Are they new to the sport? It's one of those sports where you need to do it for a while to get success. Mm-hmm. Very, very rarely do people have a lot of success just very quickly and easily. So we're looking for a lot of people that don't stop moving. This is a rare thing they just continuously going and going. They have a big gas tank and a motor that's just kind of internally driven. And it's a rare thing, but that's kind of what we're looking for. Because everything else we can teach them, coach them, show them. It's just that internal drive where they go and they go and they go. And that's something that you're really looking for. That you can work with that. It's just a natural aggression, and they got to be naturally strong too. You need to have some strength here.
Absolutely.
You're going to be wrestling another grown man. You need to be able to have enough strength to defend yourself. So those are kind of just some of the things, that we don't want to see, and then we kind of looking for.
Absolutely. Aggression has to be key in a sport like wrestling. Coach Bonner?
Well, I heard somebody say one time that there's two types of people, and I think you could apply it to two types of athletes. You have seekers, and you have avoiders. And we want seekers in our program.
Absolutely.
People that are not going to avoid situations. So I look for people that are like that. And in regards to turnoffs, immediate turnoff to me is if I see a disrespect to their teammates or their coach. Because if you see that in high school, it's a habit. And I've had some kids where we've taken chances on that, and it's an tough thing to break. So disrespect, teammates and coach.
What about officials?
It's a real turnoff. Officials would be similar, depending on the disrespect to the officials, because I've been in situations where, some of it might have been justified.
It's got to
be.
be.
I would agree with that. I mean, disrespect in general is something I want to avoid, and a lack of effort. I mean, any lack of effort, because Coach will say this: if you want to get your kids to a championship level, there is absolutely no way that's going to happen if you don't have a student athletes that's not giving everything they have. If they're not all in that regard, I think you can train some of that and amp up some of that level. But if they don't have that core belief of giving everything that they have, he said, and I look for players that are very active, and and that's kind of what Coach said. I mean, they're active in every part of the game, on defense, on offense. They're active on their bench when they're sitting on the bench.
You gotta have emotion, heart.
Oh yeah, and they're all into everything that's going on with their team. And I can name several individuals that we have on our team that I recruited them not only because of their basketball ability, but because of those intangible things that they bring to our team. And I think those are important if you're going to try to build a championship team. Somebody asked me that same thing about what kind of players do you recruit, and I just kind of said something casual one time, which is kind of funny. I thought it was funny. I said, well, I recruit two kind of players: one that has ability, and one that's good looking. and that they kind of thought, well, you're girls, so you're looking for good looking ones. Well, good looking to me is those intangible things that you really want to see, that you really want to see on your team. Those players that enhance their environment and everything they're about. So some ways that's true, but the perception of they have to be good looking is not necessarily true.
Well, high scores look good, and effort on defense looks good. I'm sure to you. Question for you, Coach Bonner. You've been coaching here for over 35 years. What would you say was your best season or most memorable moment? Is there anything that just comes to your head as far as like a memorable moment here at your time at EC?
Everything kind of gets foggy when you coach for a long period of time. I don't have one specific moment. I have a lot of conglomeration of memories. Probably the things that I remember most are the relationships that we've established through the years with some of our kids. Things like an individual player that we had that, and this is simple, and we were in convocation that decided to give their life to Christ. You remember things like that because their whole life changed in that moment. The joys of success that we've had through the years with some of our teams. The actual joy of I've had a couple of players that really struggled academically in high school that I actually saw walk across our stage and graduate. The little notes that you get from time to time from some of your players that have played for you. I mean, this year at the beginning of the year, we celebrated the first team, 1980, the first team that we had here. I actually coached them many, many years ago. And the joy, that was a joy for me to see all of them all doing well, all of them with their families, and yet all of them came back to celebrate that first team.
So you were the coach of the first team, the very first team here?
In 1980, yeah. I don't tell my current players that because they weren't even conceived during that time. But it was a joy just to, those are the kind of things. I think championships are important, and I don't ever want to down that. I mean, the run we had this year was great, and I was so happy for our team. But, even if you win a championship or you don't win it, it's great that you do that. But, I mean, ultimately, when all that's passed, I think it all comes down to the relationships that you've built with and the camaraderie that you've had with your team. So I think it's a whole lot more than just what's happening out on the court or even on the mat for me.
Absolutely. Coach Brumbelow, I have a question for you specifically. As a coach of a young men's wrestling team, you've got this team of 18, 19, 20-year-old men. How do you get them to manage their weight when they're full of testosterone and a lot of the times all they want to do is eat?
The weight management problem is the part of the coaching process that we probably hate the most. If you have to say anything about it, it's we think about other sports. We're like, oh yeah, we need 11 people playing these positions and shift them around. And then when you throw a weight management into it, it adds a whole nother factor and component because it affects so much of their. You know what people are like when they're hungry. They can be not nice to get along with and not happy. It takes a lot more to it. We set a lot of boundaries on their weight progression and weight loss. So it's a lot of holding them accountable, keeping their weight where it needs to be, and then it goes back to a lot of their thoughts and controlling what they're thinking about when they go in, as opposed to making convenient ones. That's where you make a lot of mistakes when something's convenient. making plans. So they all have individual food plans for what they need to accomplish with their weight. It's part of the job that we really don't like. It's a not fun part of the job, honestly.
That was what I talked about with Link for a little bit last week. I asked him how it was managing young women's
Right.
pre-match food plans, and he said that's probably the worst part as well. Question for both of you guys: What's your team chemistry like, or locker room atmosphere like before a game or a match? Are you guys amped up? Are you guys? Does each of your athletes do their own thing? Like, what's it like in your locker room before a game, Coach Bonner?
That really depends whether I'm in there or not, I think. Um, and I kind of let the players kind of decide how they want to handle that, as long as it doesn't get too extreme. But that's an interesting question because it's different every year with every team in terms of the direction they want to go with that. This particular team, I don't think they started the year this way, but as they got into about mid-season, after I would get through with my pregame talk with them, I noticed they had a music box. It wasn't very big, but it could get really loud. And they'd wait till I left, and then I think they had a series of songs that they used to try to get themselves amped up and ready to go. I hadn't seen any videos on it, and I probably don't want to. But I think they used that as motivation after I finished. And I try to keep things on an even keel. I don't throw stuff in the locker room or anything of that nature. I mean, I want to be consistent. So there's a lot of, I try to keep it in a teaching mode before the game. Even in the championship game, we did the same thing. So there was no real change there. But their mode of getting pumped up was, I think they used some music, and then they have chants. They actually have their own chant that they perform before they come out. It's really pretty cool. You ought to hear it sometime. It's like a poem chant, and I've listened to it, and I thought, well, that's pretty good. Like, we were in the airport, because one of our core values is we want to enhance our environment. So, like, if we're in a hotel, we want people to know that, we're there, but we're trying to make it better. Yeah, and we don't want to get carried away, but we were in the airport getting ready on the plane, and they started singing that chant. And some of the passengers started clapping and started getting into that. So it varies from year to year, but I think their mode of operation there was, I think they used some music to try to get themselves fired up, and then the chant that they use, which is really unique because I haven't heard anybody else do that. It kind of reminded me of, Remember the Titans? How they come out on the field singing? They kind of had their own little chant like that, which was really pretty neat to see. And I think our leaders helped them to develop that. So that's kind of what we did.
It seems like something that would bring the team together and bring friendships together on a team.
I think it did.
Coach Brumbelow?
Yeah, actually, the team chemistry is something that the guys thought was one of their strengths. And we feel good about that because sometimes it's a very difficult, can be a difficult thing to bring everything together when you're coaching and trying to get the guys together. But our locker room, honestly, you come in and the lights will be off. Everybody's sleeping. So, you think they're about to get in this intense moment, but it's actually a relaxation and calming. And they're all kind of just spread out in different spaces. And it's quiet and the light is just relaxing. And then as we get closer, 30 minutes before we're wrestling, they're joking. They really are. Really laid back and laughing and joking. They're just having fun. It's just really relaxed group. And then the intense stuff comes, but that's very, very individual and very right before they wrestle. Then the intensity comes on, and then the excitement. So it's very almost waking a sleeping bear, and then it becomes intense. So that's the way that looks before any match, really.
From an outsider's perspective, that's kind of the exact opposite of what I was expecting to hear. I figured they would be getting ready, listening to heavy metal or something, ready to, like a tiger getting let out of its cage. But it's cool to see. I know nothing of wrestling as far as actually doing it, so I don't know what it's like. But that's actually very interesting. Final question. I love to ask coaches this question. This is my favorite question to ask. If you were coaching your team for one final match, for the biggest match of their lives, whether it be national championship or the biggest match that they would ever compete in, and you only had one thing to give them, one quote, one saying, one statement, what would you say to your team? Coach Bonner?
It wouldn't change what we were talking about whole year. I'd talk about finishing strong. And no matter what the situation, what the score is, never, never, never give in or give up. Be really consistent with what we were talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just quickly and simply remind them wrestle the hardest, smartest 7 minutes of your life.
Good to see that you guys are confident in your methods of coaching your students. All right, that's it for episode 2 of the LPP Lions Pride podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Coach Bonner and Coach Brumbelow for joining us this week.